Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Python Freaks. So today's topic is one of the most simplest yet complex decision to make, which is what programming language should I go for, or which programming language can land me a job quickly in 2021. So we'll not talk about which language is the best one or the top 5 language and we will to rate it. Actually, we'll just talk about in which areas a particular language is being majorly used. And then based on your area of interest or the domain which you are working or which you want to work, can choose the respective programming language. And we'd just like to mention one more important point is please watch the video till the very end because as a bonus tip, I would like to give you my final opinion as which language I would suggest to anyone who is starting his career as a fresher or have spent some time in IT industry. So without any further delay, let's start the video. So let's start with the first requirement, which is foundation skill. Suppose you are a fresher or you are starting a career in IT and you have a couple of months before you actually jump into the job. And your requirement is just you want to build your base in programming. So basically you want to understand the basics of programming. If this is your requirement, then in that case I would suggest you should go for C or C++. Now the question is why only C or C++? So here it is. Firstly, this language has been in the market for about 3 decades, actually more than 3 decades. So there is tons of source code available from which we can learn a lot. Second is most of the theories related to computer networks, computer design, computer architecture and operating system are based on C and C++. So if you want to understand the fundamental of computer theories, then you must go for C or C++. The third reason being is C and C++ has a very fewer libraries comparison with the other high level language. So learning C programming or C++ programming clears your basic programming concept to a great extent as you have to write things from scratch. Like whatever you need, you have to write it from scratch. And initially as a newbie, this is what you should avoid, like using the libraries, predefined libraries. So this in this case, C++ actually helps you a lot. Like this, there are countless reasons for which you should learn C++. Now coming to the next key aspect for this, like what type of jobs can I apply if I learn C or C++? So C is extensively used in embedded programming or even we call C as a microcontroller programming. That is, C is used to program the microcontrollers and microcontrollers and embedded programming is widely used in automotives, robotics, hardware, etc. And similarly, C++ is also widely used in gaming industry. So this was pretty much about the C++. Would just like to mention one point. If your focus is job, then would not suggest you to choose this. But if you want to learn the basic crux of programming, then in that case, definitely I would suggest to go for this C and C++. Now, let's come to the second requirement. If you are very much interested in web development, then I would suggest you should go for JavaScript. In simple words, if I have to say, JavaScript actually is the programming language for web. JavaScript is the first and the foremost web development technology, and we can use JavaScript to develop front end as well as back end application. Now JavaScript is often used to build even simple browser game, and we can also use JavaScript to create mobile apps. Now, JavaScript is actually a very popular language and it's often used with third-party frameworks like React, Ember, Node.js or AngularJS and like this some other tools are also there. These tools provide a number of pre-built functions that actually extends the uses of JavaScript. Now, talking about the company which uses JavaScript are PayPal, Walmart, Facebook, Netflix, Uber. And actually, if I have to talk about Facebook, then Facebook was actually responsible for creating React.js, which to this day remains one of the most popular JavaScript libraries in the world. Facebook uses React to develop the web version of Instagrams and WhatsApp platform which we use on daily basis. So all in all, if you are interested in web development, then JavaScript is a definitely a skill which you need to have in your kitty. Now let's come to the third requirement, which is actually the most popular one. If you want a job easily, you should go for Java. Now let me give you a brief knowledge about Java. We are living in 2021 now, and this year marks the 26th anniversary of this versatile programming language. For this long, Java has been the staple programming language for all the developers in the areas of web apps, Android apps, software tools like Eclipse, NetBeans, IDE, etc. Today, Java is being used in data science application, machine learning algorithms, and even in IoT. And one of the most key features for Java being so popular is JRE, which is Java Runtime Environment. And the main prominent feature of this is it's actually compatible with almost all the device platform. It can be Mac, it can be Linux, Unix, or it can be Windows, and even for some other mainframe system. And this makes this actually this particular feature of Java makes is one of the most widely used platform for developing all these web apps and other technology. Apart from this, there are many other features for which Java is being so popular, and it's like capturing all the job market for almost 2 decades. It can be the rich source of API which Java provides. Java even has a very user-friendly language and many more. Let me give you a little bit of statistics of how much popular Java is. Uh, Today, there are almost 3 billion phones which are using Java. 125 million TV sets and 1 billion computer are running in Java. There are around 9 million Java developers in the world with a decent salary. Java gets downloaded 1 billion times in a year. If we want to talk about real world Java based application, it's like big data is making use of Java platform, banking, finance service, web development, e-commerce, and all these things are making use of Java itself. So because of all this, Java is being used so extensively. Now let's talk about the other requirement, which is web-based application. Like if your area of interest is web application and you want to do it in an easy and simplified manner, then I would suggest you should go for C Sharp. With C Sharp, you can create desktop apps, web apps, mobile apps, all these things in a very simplified and in a very easy manner. Almost all the language out there have some documentation and tutorials available for it. But there is nothing like MSDN. MSDN is actually a technical documentation for C Sharp provided by Microsoft. And MSDN is actually very highly resourceful and it explains the users in a very simple and elaborate manner. And it will often happen that you will try to search for something and you will end up reading a lot of additional stuff. Now, let's talk about why should we use C Sharp. The first thing is C Sharp is a very well structured language. Then the second is like since it was developed by Microsoft, who currently dominates the enterprise world, so a lot of applications are written using C Sharp. So a lot of job opportunities are also there. And also C Sharp has a very awesome IDE, which is Microsoft Visual Studio. And in my opinion, it's the best IDE out there. Now let's talk about the other requirement, which is like if you are not from a coding background, if you are from a non-IT background and you want to enter this IT world, or you want to work in data science, or you want to work in ML and AI, then in that case, I would suggest you should go for Python. Now, why Python? If I have to describe about Python, I would suggest like Python is actually very easy to learn language. The syntax is actually very simple, and also it has a very vast set of libraries and huge community support. So you don't have to spend much time in understanding the requirement or writing a particular library or a particular function for your requirement. Python is like you name a requirement and Python has a library for it. So this is being one of the most key factor for it. Now, if you see, Python is not as fast as its counterpart like Java, C Sharp. It's actually slower than that. But still it has grown and is still growing like anything. Reason being, its syntax is very simple. Okay, so which makes the programming learning ramp up time very less. So These are some of the factors why Python is so popular. There are some other factors also. There are hundreds of Python libraries and framework, so you don't have to waste much time on writing a new one. Next point is there is a huge support from renowned sponsors like Facebook, Amazon, Google. Actually, Google adopted Python language way back in 2006 and have used it for many applications and platforms since then. And as a result of this, the list of tools and documentation for Python keeps on growing and is still growing on in the developers world. So all these reasons are like why Python is so popular. And this is the reason I would suggest any newbie who doesn't want to do too much of coding or invest much time in understanding the actual programming should go for Python. So, with this video, I have tried to give you an overview about the various areas where programming is used. I haven't rated any programming language as first or second because every language has its own pros and cons, and no language can dominate entirely one area of job. So, based on your requirement, you can select the most relevant one which suits your career and goal. Now, as promised, let's come to the final verdict. Which language I would suggest to a fresher or even an experienced one? So, if you want to learn the basics of programming and want to have a decent job, then I would suggest go for Java. But if you are not very much interested in learning the programming basics, but want a decent job or a high earning job, then in that case I would suggest to go for Python. I would also like to mention some other programming language which is very new and which is not very matured at this stage, like Golang, Rust. You can also try learning that. But in that case, you will not have much job opportunity compared to the other these five which I have mentioned. So with this, I would like to end my video. Hope my video was informative and would help you in some way in your coming future. If yes, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And please stay tuned for more content like this. Thanks once again for watching my video and see you all in my next video.